Welcome back. We're unpacking the greatest gift ever, Jesus. Today I have my friend Greg here with me, and we are going to talk a little bit about memorable moments and how we can experience things that lead us to the greatest gift. So, welcome, Greg.
It will be a comedy
Um,
central.
Yeah, absolutely. What I wanted to talk to you tonight about one of your most memorable Christmases.
It was 1994. Uh, my father, he'd always talked about getting a vehicle the year he was born. He wanted a classic, and we were kind of down and out. We were living with mom and dad again. I was getting ready to test into corrections and go that route with criminal justice and all that. And so Sherry and I went to Myers, a department store in Michigan, and managed to find this panel wagon piggy bank. It was 1937, and I still have it on video. It's actually VHS. Don't judge. I didn't have it put over yet, but I handed it over to him, and I saw my dad, he's an ex-Army Ranger, you know, he's just something else my whole life. I saw him start to cry, and he didn't have to say anything. I know he said thank you, and he gave me a big hug, but the irony of the whole situation is that was his last Christmas, and it's a pretty memorable moment. And I haven't seen the video in a while, and now that makes me want to go get it out, because when you see this, you know, he's probably about 5'10" at his best, and then when you know what this guy's been through his whole life, and my dad never cried, and I don't know if he knew something that I didn't know.
In that gift giving process, because that is part of Christmas, and isn't that what the wise men did when they visited Jesus, was to provide gifts? And in welcoming, in that process, how did you feel? What did you learn about?
It actually humbled me. That humbled me beyond, because seeing him, the strongest man in my life on earth, and then it humbled me to see him at this vulnerable moment, just kind of like come down. And then I remember looking at my mom, and she broke right there. And that's all I gave him that year. And I regret. I wanted to give him more, but I think that was enough. I didn't know that was enough. That's what it took. And,
It's interesting how he just mentioned, I wanted to give him more. So how does that parallel with your relationship with Christ today?
now I'm on the hot seat. Did I put my foot up now?
Well, since you mentioned it.
There it is. No, I'm not staying the night at the Mosier's house. I am in my pajamas though, my Walmart wear. I just, thinking that at that moment I had probably felt a failure my entire life, which is a bigger story in and of itself. But I actually earned the money. I'm raising my family, and I remember my dad saying, he looked at little Taylor, and he says, all I want you to do for me is make him a man. And I felt like up to that point, I felt like a failure, because giving that to him, it was enough, and I could see in his eyes that I was finally, I think I was always enough to him, but at that point, I felt it, that I was enough. digging deep. And that whole year, he struggled. He'd gotten hurt. He saved a woman's life on the job where she was trying to open this big washer bin, weighed like 200 pounds. I don't know how my dad does it. He's like,
Superhero.
and he was like 57, 58 at the time. And he says, I'll get it. And as he grabbed it, he went to open it and a pipe burst inside and it hit him with 400 degrees of water and chemicals. And it burned him from here down. And from there, that point on, and that wasn't long after this gift giving was, and he had just struggled that whole year up until he passed. He went in the hospital with the burns, and he had a hole in his side, like that big, into his side, and they were dressing it, and he went into cardiac arrest. He retired in the end of July. 2 weeks later, he got his first retirement check in the hospital, and before the check cleared, he passed away. So he never even received his first retirement check. But I look back at all that, and your father does so much, and he works so hard, and he doesn't say a thing. It's kind of where I get it. Like, my dad he never had a lot of words, and it's kind of like he did it all through action. And then we look back, and it just pours out like the gift of that. I couldn't even. The whole part of the poem I was talking about is in the end is like, I can only pray to be half the man you are someday. And I don't think I've even reached that. That guy was just impossible. As our Father in heaven is, like, it's just impossible. I think to grasp everything that's done for us. And sometimes we take it for granted until we look at the Father on earth that does so much for us, that he can hear. And knowing that God, Father, the umbrella effect. And then we had a question earlier that I was going to... My dad believed, but this was the last thing I knew of my dad. We had a pastor go up and talk to him the night before he passed. And as I got the call at about 5 in the morning, I was going to get up and go check in at work. And I got the call and he said, you want to come to the hospital? I remember going through Flint, Michigan at a very high rate of speed, and I did not stop. I didn't slow down. I got to the hospital. I missed him within seconds. And I know the doctor turned around and goes, no, he's gone. And I'm like, all right. The pastor came in not long after that, and I says, well, what was your conversation about? And he said that my dad said, he says, could you pray for my son? It was probably the last thing that he said to the pastor.
How does that make you feel?
Another selfless act. He wasn't worried about himself, he was worried about me.
Sounds like you had a very loving, giving, influential father. And can you see how your father on earth could be a direct reflection of your Father in heaven?
Absolutely. And probably more so now through this conversation, and me spilling my guts is like more than ever, man.
So even more celebrating our Father, the greatest gift, and as well as in the life of our friend Greg, his father was a gift to him. So, well, I thank you for sharing that. That's a very memorable Christmas, I'm sure, for you. And perhaps can you tell our guests how to handle maybe a situation where they might be going through something like that during the Christmas season and
there's hope. There's hope and there's victory. I think that I grew up a lot. That was the catalyst to spring me forward of where I thought there was darkness. There was so much more light coming that I just had to hold on, and it came because now I have 3 awesome kids and a beautiful wife and a life that I never dreamed.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow, I'm so glad you shared that with us, and I just want to thank you. And I want to let our guests know also that even on our most memorable celebration of Christmas, we can look at it and just unpack the beauty and the gift and the life in that. So, something to ponder during this holiday season. I hope you have a blessed rest of your day.